Turn on your transistor radio. It's our favorite program. Hooray!
This is Cursed Earth Radio.
What's up, Dark Judges, Desperados, and dudes in dick-shaped helmets? You're listening to the one and only Cursed Earth Radio. That's right, we are the podcast that brings dread to the dreadless.
Broadcasting outside the walls of Mega City 1 across the Black Atlantic in North America. I'm Cool Johnny Cool.
And this is Heavy Metal Kid, and today, dear listener, do you like death and destructions? Do you like Motel Hell?
Do you like fatties eating caddies?
Who doesn't like fatties eating caddies? Do you like the newest and coolest Judge villain ever? In the past, 15 years or something. Oh, anyways, you're listening to Cursed Earth Radio.
Keep listening, creeps.
So,
Yeah,
Judge Penn.
Judge Penn.
Man, we wanted to do this for a little while now.
This is the story that got me over the hump and onto the digital age.
It brought you back, didn't it?
And we got Judge Rick with us again.
That's right.
And I believe this might be one of the things that got him to go digital.
Yeah, it was actually one of my very first digitals I bought. You were telling me about Penn.
Yeah.
It was about a year or two ago, and I bought it, and the newest story I loved it. Just blew me away. I really feel this is going to be a character, part of a rogues gallery, in addition to what we've had with Death, and I think she's going to play a very big role in down through Dread.
I think so.
I hope so. It's such a good character.
And it went for 3 years.
Yeah.
We're talking to
Slow burn.
to get this. Yeah, we don't even have a complete, any sort of trade paperback.
Now
at
we're
this
reading
point.
Progs.
I'm sure we're gonna get a paperback of these. What is it? 5.
We got 3 stories over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Is it
7,
9?
9 or 10 progs. Yeah, so it's definitely, and it started back in 2017.
Yeah, and this was one of those things where everybody was talking about waiting for this character to come back, and it was just this long, drawn out, slow burn, so to speak. I think what it really was going on though is that the creators of this character, who were seeing it through the whole way, were just waiting for times when they could actually get together and finish it. But it worked out great because Penn would come out for a little while. She'd be in a couple issues, and then she would disappear. And then she would come back, and we would pick up on that story again. And that's what made reading 2000 AD so cool and exciting. Was you've got all this other stuff going on. In between this, you had Machine Law that took place, which was like a pretty big thing.
Day of Chaos.
Day of Chaos was prior.
Oh
to
yeah,
this,
that predicates all this.
That's where this comes from. But there was just this simmering, evil, so to speak,
I love simmering evil.
below the
Nice
the
pot
sort
of simmering evil on a cold fall day.
She's probably the most evil character.
She
we've
is.
seen.
She's like an evil grandma from hell.
Now Dread doesn't.
She's like
straight
a
up call
character
her
from
evil,
a King Diamond album.
Yeah, she is. I thought it was an old ugly man for a while.
It's just
and,
an old
That's what I
ugly
thought.
woman.
I didn't think she was a woman until way later on.
Yeah, I just thought she was like a haggard old man. But
Haggard old man.
we're gonna take you through the tale of Judge Penn from start to finish, which means
For now.
if you want to read along, you're gonna have to do some downloading in the digital store or maybe pull out your progs. But
Yeah, those of you
we just keep-
across the Black Atlantic.
yeah, those who are lucky enough to have. I mean, we could have progs over here, but it's harder.
Yeah,
a
it's
little
like
bit harder.
2-week gap.
Yeah, if you ask someone if they have progs, they think you're talking about a Star Wars character called Porgs,
Yeah.
and it's pretty frustrating over
Yes. So we jumping right in?
there. Yeah, go ahead.
All right,
Give
so
it
the pin starts in the fields, and that originally ran in Progs 2035 to 2036. 2 episodes over 12 pages. The entirety of Pin has been scripted by Rob Williams. The art on the fields is handled by Chris Weston and Dylan Teague. This originally appeared. Hey, look at that! It's the 14th of June 2017 to the 21st of June 2017. I thought there was something more important there, but I'm dyslexic.
Hey, look at that!
Oh, never mind.
Took place from here to here.
Yeah, isn't that exciting? This is the first appearance of Judge Penn.
Yes, and the badge is gold for a reason.
It is.
It
We
keeps
are
coming
gods.
back. So yeah, it goes all the way back to 2017, and that's not the first time that 2080 has done something like this.
That's a long, slow burn.
Man, and I will say that this story is intertwined with the Small House story that just wrapped up.
That's is that Smiley or no?
That's Smiley.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have not read all of that because it goes back like 10 years.
I haven't read any of it. The Small House is strung over 10 years.
It's strung out forever. Yeah,
Jeebus.
and so
Yeah, it's been collected in a trade paperback now.
yeah, it's
It's
out.
up in the digital store, and you can get a physical too.
Yeah.
So
I have the physical, and I haven't even cracked it. And
Me neither.
It's
we're busy
like,
guys reading about fatties and monkeys.
I know they
Doing
keep
the Lord-
referencing it.
doing
And,
grudge work. over
yeah,
here.
we're gonna get to it though because it, especially after reading this, it made me want to go back and
Put
you
all
know,
the puzzle pieces in.
That's the thing that's tough with 2000 AD. Like if you're a new reader, they do the best they can to say like here's a jumping on
Yeah.
prog, but there's still going to be a lot
Yeah,
of history.
We're
that you don't
referencing
get.
things in Guatemala that happened in like prior progs.
Yeah.
You know. So before we get into Penn, why don't you give everybody a breakdown of Day of Chaos, because that's what gave us Penn.
Yeah, so if you haven't read Day of Chaos, it's related back to the Apocalypse War, and like we said a few episodes ago, if you don't know what the Apocalypse War, just know that it's called the Apocalypse War
For a reason.
and it was terrible, and it's basically Red Dawn
Nukes, nukes, nukes.
in the Dread universe. So Dread dropped an atomic bomb on the East Meg
well,
city.
they dropped an atomic bomb on us.
Oh yeah. He paid them back.
Yeah.
But even with that, there was some question as to should he have dropped the bomb. He made the executive decision in
He did.
that one.
He went into business for himself,
He
as
did.
they say.
He certainly did. And so all these years later, Day of Chaos comes around, and it's the Sovs retaliating against Mega
That's-
City 1.
That's
and,
a long con. That's
Yeah.
30 years.
And in this instance, it wasn't a bomb; it was a chaos bug. You know, not with a bang, but a whimper.
Biological.
So the events that happened in Day of Chaos were the chaos bug coming into Mega City and infecting everyone from the Sovs. At the same time, serial killer PJ Maybe,
Yeah, BJ Maybe. I know BJ Maybe.
he's loose
Is he?
again and wreaking
Oh my
havoc.
God.
He's taking out different politicians.
I'm
And
glad to
then-
know he's still out there.
Oh yeah, he's still out.
Making a difference.
He was big. He was a big part of that. And then at the same time, and it has been a while for me since I read The Day of Chaos, but the entire center of Mega City, where they manage all of the surveillance of Mega City, because Mega City's under fucking complete
yeah.
surveillance.
The judges aren't going to let you do anything.
Well, they take that down
Oh.
in Day of Chaos.
So the judges were blind.
They're blind,
effectively.
yeah, and so the city just goes completely crazy. And then on top of that, you have the Dark Judges make an appearance. 3 of the Dark Judges. I don't think Death's in there.
He was booked.
He was doing something else,
He was booked. He had a gig across town.
and so all of that happens. And in the end result is mass death and destruction.
Bodies, bodies, bodies.
And I don't have the figure, but it was millions.
It's okay. It'll change from podcast to podcast.
Yeah, and it cut the population of Mega City and the amount of judges that they had to the point where it was so significant that almost everybody writing had to rewrite their stories to accommodate Day of Chaos.
The giant divot in the populace.
So it was huge. I've listened to some interviews with John Wagner where he actually even said that there's a part of him that thinks maybe he shouldn't have done that because it was such a huge effect. But it brought us Pin.
Yeah.
It
Penn-
brought us our
oh,
favorite. I think we're all united in the fact that this is our favorite villain. For me, like I can't even think of the last time there was a Dread villain that I liked this much.
There's so much potential in this character long term.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah. We've all just spoiler alert. We all want Judge Pin to come back.
Yeah, and-
as a dark judge.
we just we had a long heart to heart about Judge Penn over Chinese food a little while ago.
Yes, we did.
So that brings us up to speed, and we start Penn's story with the Fields, part 1, and we got a very optimistic and eager rookie judge out on assessment.
He's just taking care of some everyday judge business, which means some crazy person has hijacked a mobile heart, or some crazy group has hijacked a mobile heart transplant clinic.
Of course.
And they're giving pursuit. The judges are giving pursuit. And this judge that you're talking about, this
Higbee.
optimistic judge, Higbee, yeah. He's out on his assessment mission.
Yeah, with McVeigh.
He still has a half eagle right now.
And McVeigh has a whole mustache.
McVeigh seems like a competent judge. You were saying that Dredd really tends to hate
Look, if we
mustachioed
go
judges.
back to the judge child, there's just that. The whole story is just Joe hate fucking this guy in his mustache.
Yes.
He even brings that up in Guatemala.
Although in the more recent stories, like the death of Hershey,
Yeah.
she exonerates Dredd from killing. She basically says, "You did the right thing."
He didn't kill him because of his mustache.
Yeah.
He may have, actually. Anyway.
So something that sticks out to me that's cool about the entire Pin run is that at the beginning of every single issue, for not just the Fields, but the Fields, Fit for Purpose, and Control, it starts out being narrated by an unknown person.
Yeah.
And at the end or halfway through, depending on which one, it's always sort of like who's doing the narration. Sometimes it's Pin, sometimes it's Dredd. In this case,
Is it Higby?
it's Higby.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought so.
I was
a
a
nice
little-
little tie-in at the end of this chapter 1.
I had to go back and read this twice because at first I thought it was Pin, and then I went back and read it again. And I was like, no, okay, it's Higby.
So it's Higby doing the narration of this opening to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, where he's talking
Okay.
about flight and...
Easy.
Yeah, I really like that comparison. World War I pilot compared to a judge. 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
20 minutes life expectancy on the streets.
And so he says like he's somewhat of an aircraft nerd
When
like,
he can get the time.
in his spare time. But yeah, he makes that comparison that back in World War I, you weren't expected to live 20 minutes. That was it.
That will probably vary from episode to episode.
And he likens that to being a judge. And
It's probably a pretty fair comparison.
yeah, I would say, well, certainly if you're dealing with Judge Pin, it's a very fair comparison. But he shows the promise of being one of the, someone who could be a promising
Yeah,
judge.
McVeigh Dredd's on the scene. McVeigh's there with Higby doing his assessment. And Joe says, "You got a keen one there, McVeigh." He says, yeah, you could say that. He's got the makings of a good judge.
Oh yeah, well, because the pursuit of this heart transplant vehicle results in an H-wagon crashing into a building.
Yeah, and there's fire, casualties. Higby's on it.
He wants to go in, and
Yeah.
the senior judges are like,
Slow down.
wait your turn, Higby," but he's in.
Yeah.
And he wants to do good. He wants to make a difference. And this is interesting because we've seen Dredd shift a lot from, normally Dredd would be looking for this mechanical, robotic judge, but this kid's got spirit. This kid has he
Enthusiasm.
cares for the citizens, and Dredd doesn't say it right up front here. He's kind of like but near the end he even kind of admits to himself and says he showed promise.
Yeah.
So as the Justice Department changes with the Judge Logan taking over, I think Rick said it on the last epised that we did. You're starting to see that
Kinder,
shift.
gentler Justice Department.
Yeah, it's been interesting. So,
So yeah, like the senior judges tell Higby to wait for the fire department and the rescue to get here, and Higby's in there pulling bodies out of the wreckage. What Joe and McVeigh just slow to come behind him, and even McVeigh says, "You're putting us to shame, cadet."
Yeah.
And
And when all is said and done, the firefighters have showed up. Higby's sitting on the ground. They're beat.
drinking some Synthicath, I'm sure.
They've been working hard all day, and in comes Judge Pin.
Yeah, the SJS show up, and God, they got skulls on everything.
They are the SS.
That looks like Judge Death from the back. Look, not
Yeah.
there, but look at that. That she's got skulls on her belt. That's Judge Death's profile.
They're
No uncertain terms.
I just love her appearance when she
Oh,
makes.
it's so good.
I mean, you just see the belts, the skulls. It's like she death.
The SJS is always supposed to have been intimidating, and like nobody likes the SJS. But I think as we've gone on, the art style has made it like, wow, these guys are really.
Oh, they've certainly gotten
This is the
a
SS.
lot cooler. Yeah,
this is the SS.
they're
Not that the SS is cool.
right.
Let's get that out there.
But her shoulder pad
Yeah.
is the badge. The
Yeah,
badge is so
I love
huge.
that. So she shows up, and you are McVeigh's cadet, Higby. Yeah, it's like even her speech is off-putting. Like, who talks like that?
Yeah.
And Higby says that's right, and Penn says, "Stay here. I will have instructions for you presently." Like, what the? Who talks like that? It's like, she's very haughty and
Oh, she does. She wants
Proper.
to be seen as complete authority.
yeah, she is iron.
Yeah.
So
She's gold.
the badge is gold for a reason.
So it turns out that McVeigh has a secret.
Yeah.
And this is a
A
big
terrible, horrific secret.
this is a big thread that goes through this whole Judge Pinn storyline, which is McVeigh is hiding the fact that he's living another life.
Yeah.
A human life.
Yeah. He has a what, daughter?
He has a daughter and a wife.
In a sector, there he said, well, there are some parts of Mega City you can still hide secrets.
Yeah.
So it's like a slum, and because you're not, as a judge, you're not supposed to have, almost like a priest, you're not supposed to have personal attachments or personal life.
Yeah. And that's what Dredd finds himself struggling with throughout this storyline, is all of the connections that he has that end up sort of working out for him in the end are connections that he feels a little guilty about having.
Yeah, it's that Justice Department programming.
Yeah, I shouldn't have friends. I shouldn't have emotions. And you're dealing with Judge Pinn in the SJS, especially Pinn.
Nobody wants to deal with the SJS first and foremost.
Yes, and but their emotion is completely dead.
Yeah, they are here. They serve the law. They serve the letter of the law and nobody else.
And this is where we know that this rookie is in trouble. See, Dredd can question authority a little bit, but
Well, he's been on the streets for 40 years.
Yeah.
Even he can butt heads with the edge of the SJS.
but taking out McVeigh and Cadet Judge Higbee stands up to Judge Pinn, and he
Yeah.
says, he's still a good judge.
He's proved it. He's shown it.
Yeah, and it's true.
And like right here, Penn, with McVeigh in custody, removes his helmet.
Yeah,
First time.
yeah, that's a thing that she
That's
does.
the thing.
And so that initial, she basically says he broke the law, and he says, then maybe the law needs to change.
Yeah, that like the look on Penn's face. I love it. Like,
And so think about this. He says maybe the law needs to change. Immediate insubordination.
yeah.
And yet later on in the prog, Dredd still deems he would have been a good judge. I hate to go back to Necropolis.
We're
Johnny,
going to.
But let me just say,
Didn't we
Insubord-
literally just had this conversation over Chinese food.
insubordination in this case, it makes sense.
Yeah, but this
Does he have the Judda in his blood?
no, this is a different Joe. This is Christ, you're making a lot of noise.
I'm sorry. So
Jeez.
moving on.
This is a different Joe though. This is I know.
Yeah, I just had to mention Necropolis.
Well,
so
this is real talk. Like, we literally just got lunch. We were at the Chinese restaurant. The three of us are talking Dredd,
talking Necropolis.
talking the Necropolis, while shoving Chinese food in our face. And we found Judge Rick and myself are of a mind, and
I'm in the minority
HMK is on a different path. But even when we're not on radio or on mic doing this stuff, we talk about this stuff constantly.
Yeah. So this judge questions the law, and we know that he's made a mistake.
Dredd kind of gets between Higbee and Penn and says, "You're coming with me, Higbee."
It'd be reassigned.
Yeah. So I think he was trying to
Intervene.
head off some SJS fuckery that might be happening.
He failed.
Yeah.
What happens 2 months later?
Higbee gets a call, and somebody called HQ about an intruder, and he's in the apartment. And I love this. He's calling, citizen, and he sees a painting on the wall, and it's a World War I biplane.
Yeah.
And then somebody comes up behind him, and we see in the shadows an SJS uniform,
Yep.
and it's Penn.
And he's a full Eagle judge.
Yeah, he's full
He's
Eagle.
wearing
He
the
got
full
through.
uniform. Yeah.
He was apparently called here, and
Lord.
the purpose is for Pinn to pass her judgment.
And her judgment is cold steel across Higbee's throat.
Yeah, that World War I plane. What do
Yeah.
we establish?
His 20
there?
minutes are
20
up.
minutes, and he's done.
And I think
What
that last thing, what does he say? 20 minutes?
Yeah, not long at all.
Not
Yep.
long at all, yeah. So his final narration is,
So his narration, I am assuming, is taking place, the whole comic is in this sequence that branches out from it.
yeah. And then as he's bleeding out. he's-
Thinking back across it. So that's the end of the first chapter. So right off the bat, we see Penn do what becomes her hallmark when she removes McVeigh's helmet because she's headhunting now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Penn,
Head on.
she is the law. She judges the judges.
I mean, you knew right from the beginning when you see this character makes her her introduction. You knew this. She's bad news.
She's frosty.
She's something different,
Yeah.
and you can almost tell if you're watching the panel. Dredd's looking at her. he senses something with her.
Yeah, even
I think
Joe knows something's
his
up.
sixth sense is picking something up, a vibe.
I don't know if they had any interaction prior to this meeting, but Joe's a pretty good read on threats.
And he struggles in this story though a lot because he's constantly telling himself, "No, this
She's
is
doing her job.
This is what the SGS. You're not supposed to like the SGS." But the battle of his emotions and his
He knows
gut
something's
feeling,
terribly wrong.
and this is the whole theme is Dredd knows something is terribly wrong with the entire justice system, and he struggles to
The big lie.
learn.
Yeah.
Yes, the big
I think
lie.
actually that's the point, because just like the rookie said, he needs to be changed.
Yeah.
Dredd didn't correct him on that.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe he knew inside deep and it needs.
I think in the Wake of Necropolis, there's like the 800th time we've said it, that Joe believes that it needs to be. After his dealings in Revolution and Letter from a Democrat, like all that's compounded.
Well, Day of Chaos to all of that, going back to the Judge Smiley thing, where he was able to see the corruption in the system, which is what drove a wedge between he and Hershey. Realizing that the Justice Department is not ironclad, things are going on.
It's not all black and white.
These clandestine things under the surface that are coming back to hurt the city over and over again from within. So that takes us to the Fields part 2.
And the cover of this prog, we're now in the prog 236. That's the first image I ever saw of Penn.
And you knew you
fucking
had to
awesome.
see
Yeah,
that.
I knew right off the bat that, oh my God, this ain't good.
Yeah.
I mean, were you not shocked when she just comes up behind and slits his throat?
Oh my God, like the setup in chapter 2 where it's the closing in of the shot on the Mega City block where you see, and then you see her come up behind him through the window. What is it? The badge is gold for a reason. The very first line of this chapter.
Yeah, this one is narrated by Penn.
Yeah.
And we get a little window into her thoughts. And it's the idea that the justice system, especially the judges, are meant to be gods.
We are the gods of law.
Yeah. Only gods can enforce it. She talks about the divine right of kings. So the idea that she's now holding these judges to that standard,
Yeah.
you have to be
Her
a god.
exacting standards.
Yeah.
The world continues to turn. Mankind will always crawl in the dirt unless we hold the line.
And I like the fact that as this story goes further, we find out sort of the reasoning behind that, because it would be really easy to turn her into like a cheesy comic book villain.
Like the villain of the week, like they did with Death in his first appearance.
Yes, but we see where that comes from. She wasn't necessarily born with this. It was created by Mega City, and to some degree, it was created by Dredd.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
For his figure,
Yeah.
the character he has become, the image he has become, not so much Joe as a person,
yeah,
but the Judge Dredd that the public believes he is and exists.
yeah, and she is now taking it upon herself to judge the judges, even beyond what her job.
Yeah, she's going to
entails.
clip anybody who is not up to her standards. She's not. They don't just get expelled and stricken from the record. They're going to get killed.
Yeah.
And so this is the first time we see her do that, and she has come up behind Higby and opened his throat up.
And after we see that grisly murder, and we get a little bit from Penn, we flash forward 8 months. And some crazy motherfucker has hacked into the Justice Department mainframe, and he's decided he's controlling these like
The battle droids, yeah, the war droids.
Yeah, war droids. He's controlling them like a
Video game.
Black Ops video
Yeah.
game. And they're saying it has to be the Sobs. Who could it be? And then we get this panel of him
He's
sitting
such
there.
just a douche noodle.
He's drinking his Mountain Dew Code Red with
Yeah.
his neck beard, and he's talking to his friends. Oh shit! I hacked the robots. Oh, let me.
Popping their heads, yeah.
So this is going on, and at this same time as Penn is narrating this, she talks about Dredd, because Dredd is the figurehead, and if you're going to judge the judges, that's where you're going to look
Yeah.
first. And she says, I thought that maybe he was a dinosaur. You know, I thought I was questioning my judgment. He was unfit relic, but then in this instance, who comes in to save her?
Yeah. Side note, as I do when I look in the backgrounds, did you notice the poster for Grudzilla
No,
in the guy's apartment?
what a fucking dork.
King of the Monsters.
At this point, she and Dredd end up fighting side by side for a
Well,
time.
she comes up because the SJS meeting room is attacked by a war droid because they're just going nuts.
Yeah.
They're trying the judges are trying to find the source of the hack and shut it down. Meanwhile, these war droids are just ripping the Justice Department to shreds. and the droid hits the SJS room where Pin is, and it bears down on her, and she says, "Don't. My work is not yet complete."
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're growing a garden, are you? So
So
but who comes in?
well, yeah, it's Dredd. But and at this point, so it takes her gaze off of Dredd for a short time.
For a hot second, because she comes up behind him
Yeah.
with her lawgiver.
But they fight side
Yeah.
by side. Yeah.
Yes, he is still most worthy.
Yeah.
At this point.
Then we skip ahead 4 months and we see Pin is wandering these derelict, desolate
This
part
is in
of Mega City.
Yeah, left over after the Day of Chaos.
Yeah. There's no cameras. It's too irradiated there for anyone to spend any length of time. They haven't started rebuilding there. There's still bodies littered all over this part where the destruction happens. But she has built a Motel Hell style garden.
Yeah, she's got helmets, and each helmet is somebody she judged for not being worthy of the badge.
Yeah.
How many helmets you think's out
That's
there?
a lot.
That's a lot of
I'm
helmets.
gonna say
I'm gonna
50?
count.
Are you going to count?
I should have counted.
So while you're counting, I'll say at this point, if you're reading along, just during the normal flow, you get this and you're like, oh, fuck, this is going to be crazy. And then you wait a year.
Yeah.
Because this story...
2 chapters.
Yeah, this story took place over 3 years. So, man, we were reading along and... it's like whatever happens, yeah, that was a great story. That in the back of my mind the whole time, I'm going, oh God, when does Pin return?
Yeah.
I can't wait for Pin to return.
She's growing her garden.
And so
So that finishes out.
that's the end of the fields.
Yes.
And we know that something's coming.
Have you read Town Called Malice?
I have not read a
There's
Town
a
Called
monkey
Malice.
with a gun. Non sequitur.
Yeah.
There is a monkey with a gun.
I know. That's something I certainly need to read. Again, I'm just so overwhelmed, and I have
With
so many things to think about, so many concerns. And Johnny, it brings a good question.
Oh, God damn it. What?
If there's anything that we can do to help minimize our concerns, our worries throughout the day, you would want to do that, right?
We're just jumping right into the corporate whoring. That's
Would
where
you
we are.
want your family to have to worry about you being a felon?
Why is it
a
always
criminal?
my family?
Well, I care about you, Johnny, and I don't want anything bad to happen to your family. And that's why I have a question for you.
All right, what?
Are you tired of spending your days and nights worrying about becoming an accidental offender?
What?
Then Snodgrass, Knee and Associates
Oh, Jesus.
can help you. Call
What?
them and hire one of their knowledgeable preventative defenders.
What?
Well, you see, recent studies have found that the average megacity citizen, like you, like me, like Rick, unknowingly breaks 2 to 3 laws per week.
I assumed.
Per week.
Per week?
Laws are constantly changing, Johnny. Don't let your ignorance land you in the cubes. Call Snodgrass, Knee and Associates, prevention law specialists, and find out what laws you're breaking right now.
Do they have a coupon?
Well, keep listening to find out. As a special gift
Oh, boy.
to our listeners, that's
Our
right, the
listeners.
listeners of Cursed Earth Radio, the fine and knowledgeable people at Snodgrass, Knee and Associates have agreed to offer a free consultation to anyone who schedules their consultation online at snodgrasskneeandassociates.org. That's Snodgrass, SNODGRASS, Knee, KNEE, and Associates, ASS.org.
Happy emphasis on the ass.
And use the promo code Cursed Earth Radio. Just type that into that promo code bar, and you will get
What's
a
the
free
percentage?
consultation. Oh, it's a free
A
consultation.
free consultation.
That's right. Can you get any better than free, Johnny?
Not legally, no.
No, and it's good to stay free
Yeah.
by hiring
Get the
Snodgrass,
fuck out.
Knee and Associates. Let me tell you one thing, Johnny,
Oh, you're gonna.
because this is going to blow your mind.
I'm
I
sure.
went ahead and paid the nominal fee. And
How
got-
many creds is a nominal
just a
fee?
nominal fee. And I got what they call an accidental offender audit.
Oh, boy.
So what they did is they sent out a legal droid to my house and it recorded my everyday interaction. Just for one day. It wasn't intrusive. He stayed in the back and he monitored what I was doing the entire time.
Look at
He
your
fired
browser
me.
history?
He followed me for an entire workday. Well, I've been advised against discussing the specifics of my audit, but let me just say that I made some major life changes to my daily routine after I got the results from that audit.
I can't. Oh, I can't.
Oh, hold on a second.
I got nothing.
Okay, I've just received a text message. Apparently, the fine people at Snodgrass, Knee and Associates are listeners to the show.
Oh, boy.
And yeah, apparently, even alluding to the fact that I may have accidentally committed some crimes is grounds for investigation.
Good job.
So
Can
visit
we-
snodgrasskneeandassociates.org, preventative defenders, and make sure that you.
Can we do the podcast from the cubes?
Well, let's hope.
Oh, no.
snodgrasskneeandassociates.org. Type in the promo code Cursed Earth Radio.
That's the least terrible endorsement we've had to do yet.
Keep listening, creeps.
Well, so Judge Rick, you may be the new co-host for Cursed Earth Radio.
For reasons we can't discuss.
You bastards going.
I'm just
Isaac
hoping. I'm just hoping that the Justice Department isn't listening.
Oh, you know they are, and they're watching, and they saw that thing you did.
Although being out here in the Cursed Earth, I'm sorry, I'm making so much noise.
God, we're getting less professional as this goes.
It's true. Once you realize no one's listening except
Yeah.
for the Justice Department and apparently our sponsors,
Start doing this in my underwear.
yeah. So
I've got a body for radio.
please don't.
That'll log inside anyway.
So we're looking at Fit for Purpose.
Which is the second chapter of our. Oh, I got to do Johnny fact check here. Don't
Go
I?
for it.
All
yes.
right.
I don't think anything has changed with regards to the people working on this.
Well, we
has
got dates that have changed.
it? Oh, that's
So
true.
this Fit for Purpose appeared in Prague's 2073 and 2074. 2 episodes over 12 pages. Once again, written by Rob Williams and art by Chris Weston and Dylan Teague. Originally appeared from March 21st, 2018 to March 28th, 2018.
This one is narrated by Judge Gerhardt.
Gerhardt is a horror show.
Oh, he's an SJS officer, and he has been through some stuff.
Yeah, he is not even just a good cyborg job. It's just meat just hanging off metal.
And we talked about this a little bit earlier, that Gerhardt and Judge Dredd have not always been sort of eye to eye on things. For a time, Gerhardt was sort of internally investigating Dredd for the possibility that he was inadvertently responsible for Day of Chaos due to
Nuking
nuking
East Meg 1.
But over time, they seem to have worked together, and we know, although we have not read the
Small
entirety
House.
of the Small House,
Yeah.
that they work together taking down Smiley. So they're connected, and Dredd, as we find in this prog, trusts Gerhardt. Even though he's an SJS officer, there's something in him that Dredd sees that is honest to some degree. So at this point, we see Gerhardt getting ready for his shift, and like you said,
Oh my god, it's just like the worst. Like, why even at this point?
he's essentially a robot.
He
Mechanical
is-
hand, mechanical
yeah, he's
arm.
meat.
Yeah. Even his
Encased by metal.
chest cavity is full of cybernetics.
Yeah, like it looks like a Hammer horror Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, and it shows the sacrifice that someone like this has given to Mega City physically, and we also realize that the SJS have given the ultimate sacrifice in terms of nobody wants to be around these motherfuckers.
Yeah, they are the dick of dicks.
They can't socialize with judges.
No external connections.
There's
'cause it
nothing.
could compromise you and your job as an SJS officer.
And we get the feeling that even within the SJS, it's like that.
Yeah,
they don't
there's
even
just
fraternize with
neuroses
each other.
and-
Yeah.
Gerhardt looks like a RoboCop.
Yeah, I was gonna.
What a
It's,
terrifying. I mean, you imagine like it chasing you.
it's like RoboCop if you pulled all the armor panels off and you got down to the gears and the. I like the fact that the one side of his face he still has an upper lip. He still has his mustache.
Yeah.
Remember Cyborg?
Yeah.
That's what it kind of reminds you of.
Yeah, because he's
DC.
got like his the right side of his face is just mostly robotic, and his head's just stapled together up there. Like it's ugh.
Yeah.
This meat.
So at the beginning of this prog, Gerhardt is narrating, and he gets questioned by Judge Pinn.
Finn.
They're doing internal investigation to see if he is indeed fit for purpose.
But we can't gloss over.
Oh, I know. I have this in my notes.
Greatest thing that ever did happen in Mega
This is
City
good.
1.
What's going
Especially given our previous episode, Fatty Fest 2019. We have this grim open of Gerhardt gearing up for his shift where he's, we see the damage done to the body in line of service. And then Judge Penn comes in and wants a war with him. And it's very grim. And there's just Fatty. Fatty on two skyboards. He's shouting death to skinnies. He's gassing people on the speedway.
He's gassing them with rodentine.
Yes.
Is that how you pronounce it?
That's how I pronounce it. And God, it just melts people.
And he's yelling death to skinnies. Why is he mad, Johnny?
Well, apparently he had a falling out with his girlfriend Helga.
You know she was a fatty, right?
Oh my God!
You know she was a fatty.
Just slapping flabs together.
Oh my!
And he's just Scooty Puff Jr. in and crop dusting these people. And your cat was already dead, Helga.
Did he eat the cat or what?
It wasn't me.
Yeah.
Do I get the blame? Yes. Did I eat its corpse again? Yes. Fair enough on that one. Jesus Christ!
But he didn't kill the cat.
This is how you open
Just ate it.
the second chapter of the first chapter of Fit for Purpose, the second installment of the Pin story, with this fucking lunatic.
Even in Dread and 2000 AD, when shit is getting heavy, when the stakes are stacked up and it's looking grim,
There's a cat eating fatty on a surfboard.
there's always going to be that weird random element.
I loved you, Helga, and I loved your cat. Sparky was delicious. And then the judges mercifully shoot this fatty out of the sky. But then he goes plummeting, belching rodentine towards the children's playground.
Yep. I did notice I didn't know this about Mega City judges, but they apparently control the weather.
Well, yeah, there's Apocalypse War. The weather satellite
Oh,
controls
you're
go
fucking
on.
right.
Yeah.
Because then it's fucking winter.
Snowing, yeah. All of a sudden,
How
all
did I
hell breaks
forget
loose.
that?
There's
Yeah.
rainstorms and tornadoes.
So they radio in and tell them to create a tornado to get the fucking rodentine out.
But that's after they blow hit this fatty the fuck up.
yeah.
They fucking Jesus Christ.
In the new Judge Dredd miniatures game,
Oh, I hope this guy's in there.
I've gotta have this guy. I'm gonna make this guy.
I want a whole prog about him and Helga and what led to this.
It may happen.
He
it
ate
may
a cat. Of all the fucking shit, he ate a cat.
It may certainly happen.
But it wasn't Dredd who. So Dredd is on the overpass with some other judges watching this shitheel crop dust the speedway, and Dredd shoots one of his skyboards out from because he's too big for one skyboard.
Yeah, right.
He shoots one out, so he goes into a tailspin while screaming death to skinnies, heading towards a playground full of children. Judge Dredd calls out the high X, and then Fatty explodes. And yeah, somebody says, "Nice shot, Dredd." And Dredd, that wasn't my shot. And here comes the party poopers.
Yeah.
SJS shows up.
SJS with Gerhardt in tow.
Gerhardt's the one that made the kill shot.
Yeah, still showing that he's an effective judge, even in the face
He
of
always
being
could kill a cat-eating fatty.
internally investigated. And so they tell Dredd that effective immediately he's off the streets. Now, what I thought initially was that
Coming
Pin's
for
going
Dredd.
after Dredd.
And Dredd gets right in her little wrinkly face.
Yeah.
Joe ain't having it.
But it turns out that they're investigating Gerhardt, and Gerhardt tells Dredd, they're investigating to see if I'm
Fit for
still
purpose.
fit for purpose. Yeah.
On
And,
what grounds? On what grounds?
Yeah.
Just gets right up in her face. Or down
Questioned
in her
authority. He questioned his authority.
Face.
on it.
He didn't. He had a bad feeling about Penn, like we said in the first meeting. And he's just generally distrustful of everybody at this point.
And knowing that Dredd and Gerhardt have the history and that they're, to whatever degree they can be friends, allies, we'll say, Dredd is starting to see his world get smaller and smaller. And after this, we know that he gets even smaller still with Hershey leaving. And all of these people...
Judge Rick's SJS. I'm just finding this out. Is that why you're here?
That's right.
So that ends Fit for Purpose 1 on the sort of cliffhanger of Gerhardt has been, he's
going to be in front of the tribunal, for lack of a better term. But look at this. The SJS and the Justice Department aren't even housed in the same building.
Yeah.
And the SJS, they got spikes on. They're like full tilt Dead World goth. I love the skulls in the building. Like
Birds won't even light on that building.
They
it's not
are
happening
committed to just being terrifying.
And the entire second prog will take place in that building for the most part. It's the trial of Gerhardt. And I'm glad they gave an entire prog to that.
Because it ain't a fun time around the campfire for Gerhardt.
I actually forgot they were two separate buildings.
Yeah, they don't even, there's no commingling.
Yeah. So
Segregation's big in Mega City 1.
Especially for the SJS. So now we're on to part 2 of Fit for Purpose. And did you notice who they show here? That's Slocum.
Slocum. Why that rings a bell, but I'm not.
Bloop.
That's the guy that carried the guy that
That's
was carrying
Judge Fish's attendant.
Oh my goodness! Like.
Remember when Cal had him preserved?
I fucking forgot about that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh no! Wait, he didn't preserve him. He was Cal's right hand man.
He's the dude in the underwear.
No, that's a different guy.
Oh, okay.
Slocum was Cal's right hand man, and Cal fucking went nuts and preserved him in formaldehyde or whatever the hell that is. And apparently SJS still have Slocum on display.
I'm trying to remember the judge with the underwear.
We'll talk. Well, that's the end of the season, so we'll be there.
Yeah, I was gonna cosplay as that judge one time, but I didn't have the guts to go shirtless.
Well, nobody's gonna get it.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Why is that weirdo just in his underwear at the Comic-Con?
So we spend the next prog at the tribunal. Is that what we're gonna call it?
It looks like a tribunal.
So he never liked the SJS Dredd, and he always felt that they got too much enjoyment of what they did.
Yeah,
they're smug about it.
Because they are the highest authority.
Yeah. And the charges against Gerhardt are that I love what Penn says. She says he's no longer worthy of the skull.
Of the skull.
They say that, he's suffered so many terrible injuries. They're using this against him. You have to utilize painkillers almost to a degree that is questionable.
Yeah.
And they're basically saying he's mentally unfit because he has PTSD and all of his physical limitations. Things.
There's this panel showing you why Gerhardt is the way he is. And yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's meat rubber banded to metal. Of course he's on painkillers.
Everything that is him, because of what he's been through, they've caused it, and now they're using it against him. Yeah. It's going to drive him out of Mega City.
Because, you don't just get to step down from being SJS. Right. I'm surprised they don't just take him out back in Old Yeller Room.
It's pretty much that. Yeah, what else is there, He still maintains that he's a good judge. This is and this is where I wish we had read The Small House. Mm-hmm. Because for a time, he still lobbies for himself. And standing before the SJS, it's really pitiful, honestly, because there's nothing for him. He's like 75% cybernetic. Yeah. And for all he's given, he's, like you said, he's just taken out like you're worthless to us. Yeah. You're just some old tool.
Well, how many, when the Justice Department's done with you, they grind you up and spit you out. Yeah. Joe's not going to get anything different when it's his time to go.
Well, and he knows this. I think he's at the point where he realizes there's not going to be he'll get, like you said, he'll get a statue. Yeah. And that's about it.
Sitting by Fergie on the toilet.
But at this point, Gerhardt is defending himself, and then Penn, being this calculating, we know, psychopath. Yeah. Turns her line of questioning to Dredd, and this is where she boxes him in, because she starts asking why they're spending all their time together.
We're friends.
Sure. And she, it's inappropriate for an SJS to have a friend. She says it's odd. Why? And so what happens here is that we know Dredd and Gerhardt had been working on the Smiley thing. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these meetings that seem like they're doing buddy hangouts that have been watched by all of Mega City's surveillance.
We're being watched now by.
Yeah, exactly. So it turns out that's probably what they were doing, and now Gerhardt has to protect that. And they don't state this, they don't mention it, because I'm guessing, the reader jumping into this is not, you're not going to be able to sum that up specifically. Mm-hmm. But Gerhardt ends up saying, "You're right. I've had this thought for a while that maybe I'm not fit." He makes a complete 180. Yeah. And he basically throws himself to the wolves because he's protecting what he and Dredd were doing.
Yeah, he wants their work to remain untouched.
Yeah, and maybe that's because he realizes the sort of corruption that's in that system anyways, and still wants Dredd to be out there on the streets. So he chooses to take the long walk.
The Mega City equivalent of pleading the fifth.
Yeah.
So he sacrifices his entire career as a judge in order to keep this investigation that Joe and he have been doing intact.
And he was probably tired.
And he's got to be in pain. Like the pain meds they've already talked about are almost nearing critical levels. He's got to be tired and miserable, but he wants that work that he and Dredd have been doing to remain intact. So he fell on the grenade, as it were.
Mm. And he seems to be struggling, Dredd, that is, because he's questioning this whole time whether or not it's something that should be happening. He doesn't see Gerhardt as being unfit,
Yeah.
but he has to bite his tongue.
Yeah, he could step up, and that's where he's torn. He could step up and stop this,
Yeah.
but it would jeopardize everything.
Yeah. And so as Gerhardt takes the long walk, Dredd he's there.
Yeah.
He's, sending him off. He's one of the judges, and he is having a major internal battle with what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can see Dredd there. He says, but he trusted what he felt he always had. Dredd goes by his instincts, what he feels. And I think he knows something's bad's coming down here. There's some manipulation going on right here. He's not with it.
And he could stop this. He could stop the whole thing, but
I think he's wanting to see how it's playing out. I think he's wanting Penn to really play
trying to force her hand.
Force her hand, yeah.
I noticed that when Gerhardt goes in his walk, it's Street Judge uni. He doesn't go on his walk in his SJS uni.
I didn't even notice that. Yeah.
That's my job. That's what I do.
The fact checker. Yeah.
Fact checker. I'm satanic panicking.
And exactly what Rick was saying is that if he's setting the trap, then he got exactly what he wanted, because he sees the slightest smile.
The smirk.
And it's the smirk that reminds him, as he says later on, reminds him of what he's seen on the Dark Judges. Something about it reminds him of Judge Death.
I've seen that on Death. Then even Dredd says, the cadet, what was his name? The good one that Penn took away that time?
Yeah. It's all
Higbee.
starting to make
Yeah.
sense.
Like the gears, everything kind of falls in place in Joe's head right there. Oh, Higbee.
And here's something that's I found interesting when she smiles and he starts making the connection with death and the connection with the Dark Judges and all this stuff. What he says is that it's a smile that is part and parcel for cruelty and crime.
Mm-hmm.
In Dredd's vocabulary, evil doesn't exist. But what he's seeing is evil. But from his frame of reference, cruelty and crime is all he... Crime to him is the ultimate. That's it. But anyone else, we would look at this character and say, she's a fucking evil, horrible psychopath. But all he knows...
Is she a psychopath or a sociopath?
She is... She would present as a sociopath. But if you look at... talking about just extreme, like, psychopathology... she's there for a while. She's talking to herself. So she's like holding back a psychotic break. So I would say at the beginning of the story, she's American Psycho. And then near the end, she ends up basically just completely fucking losing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a triggered loss of complete sanity. But the less control she has, and I think that's why they call this control too, the less control she has, the farther and further her grip on reality gets.
She just slips. So now we're into the third and final act, for now, of the Penn story. We're into Control. And this ran through from Prague's 2141 to 2145. Over 5 episodes and 32 pages. Scripted still by Rob Williams. Arts by Chris Weston and Chris Bly. From July 24th, 2019 to August 21st, 2019.
Opens up with a great cover again. Pin.
The Penn. You sent me this. And
Yeah.
This is when I'm still on the fence about going digital, and the imagery is just so good.
Yeah. This story deserves a nice long ending, and for by 2000 AD standards, we get 5 issues. That's pretty good. It still felt a little bit like the ending was rushed.
That last chapter 5 is a little universal monstered.
But if you look at something like Death, Judge Death, his end came in one page.
What can't it do?
Yeah, his end came in 1 page. So she got pretty good for 2000 AD. She got a pretty good end. If this were some kind of fucking Batman story, this would have been an entire year's worth of an ending.
Yeah.
And people would have died and came back to life a million times, and none of it would have meant anything. But luckily, we're in the world of 2000 AD. So.
And we open right up with a judge's helmet laying on the ground, and then splattered with blood.
She's killing another one.
Yep.
Now she also has an assistant.
Yeah, she's got a battle droid or war droid with her.
Yeah. Where did she steal this from?
I don't know.
How did she manage to get a war droid?
When you're the head of the SJS, you get things. I'm sure.
Maybe it was one of those old war droids that broke into that
We're
she and
going to
Dredd took out.
war.
Yeah. Not an ABC warrior.
But did you notice, like, the first time we see her and she picks up the helmet, and she says, "No, the badge is gold for a reason." Her badge is now gold. All her because SJS is black and silver.
Yeah.
But now her SJS shoulder badge is gold.
Oh, I
Her
haven't noticed that. Wow.
belt buckle's gold. Her name badge is gold.
So she contacted
Yeah.
the Guilders, the same
Yeah.
people that did El Presidente. So, and in this one, we're talking about her being kind of descending into insanity.
Mhm.
She is struggling to hold it together in this one.
Oh, the panel with her
Oh, yes.
tenuously hanging on
And she's vomiting up a string of corpses.
Yeah.
This is where we get a little bit of a peek into what the fuck brought Pin and what created Pin.
Mm-hmm.
And she's fighting against herself. She's like talking to herself and reminding herself that she has to do this, and she uses her first name.
Yeah.
Come on, Bella. Your reticence is weakness. She's again, you know, the thing that we find out that happened with her, it didn't completely take her. Very much like Dredd is struggling to come to terms with the fact that the Justice Department is broken. She's really in the same spot, you know, in terms of realizing that it's the almost the opposite with Dredd. It's the extreme.
Yeah.
The refusal to see that anything could be can be
Amiss
different. Yeah.
or askew with the law and how we're doing it.
She's at this point she's come to terms with the fact that she has to take down Dredd, and
Well, she doesn't have to, but she's
well in
her
terms
mind.
of, yeah, she has no choice. She's been fighting it ever since.
Number two
She
alphas
knows.
going at it.
Yeah.
They sense one's dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she sees that he's going to make it hard for her to continue judging these other, and maybe she's found out that Dredd is doing this investigation
it's
into what happened.
closing in. Yeah.
What happened with
Look at these
Higby?
ugly fucking rats.
Oh, I love the rats.
Mutant rats.
Little tumored, nasty ass rats.
Jesus. In the garden, Penn has been tending to her Motel Hell garden. She's got another helmet for it, and that's when she has her break.
Yeah.
She just imagines herself vomiting up all of these bodies,
Yeah.
which is a great image.
It's my favorite image from this issue.
It's no fatty on
Ah.
two surfboards shouting about eating a dead cat, but
It's a peek into probably what's going on.
Her
in
psychosis.
24/7. Yeah. While this is happening, Dredd is out in the cursed earth.
Mm-hmm.
We missed him. He was here. We didn't see him. He's out meeting Judge Gerhardt.
yeah, Gerhardt's still, and he's arresting some smugglers,
Yeah, they were
Some beauty
promising
smugglers.
people entrance into the city, right? Killing them off.
taking their creds, either killing them or selling them off as slaves. And Gerhardt, the mutie he's arresting, is a Misfit song. that fucker's got 20 eyes in his head.
He does, yes.
Ugh.
There's some extra arms going on there
Yeah.
too in that group.
Cursed Earth ain't a nice place. I'm waiting for our mutations to set in.
It's I hope I get 20 eyes.
Yeah, well,
It's interesting the little back and forth that Dredd and Gerhardt have, where he asks like, "How's the long walk going?" And Gerhardt actually says it's almost like a vacation a little bit.
he's
It's
kind of
nice.
found peace out there.
Yeah.
Gerhardt probably has fared the best out of any judge that's taken the walk because he's mostly robot.
Yeah.
Robot,
Yeah, he's out there clanging around.
And he even asks Dredd, have you thought about taking the long walk? And Dredd says, "I did once.
Didn't take.
Didn't take." We talked about that.
I like that where Dredd says Meichwagen's incoming, we'll take him in for processing. Gerhardt says, I can deal with him here if it's easier. Cursed Earth Justice, save you the bother, find a tree, hang him high.
Yeah.
Of course, Dredd's just, stony face, and Gerhardt said that was attempted humor.
Yeah.
So,
I really wish we could have got more of their. I want a buddy cop movie
Yeah.
with them. Yeah. But he's been thinking about Pin this whole time, and now seeing Gerhardt brings it all back. A good judge. Obviously, a judge still fit for purpose. He's apprehended how many? 6, 7 guys there
Yeah.
by himself. And it just reminds him, again, it's death and the dark judges. It's something about this specific person that he starts to realize is more than just... She's more than just an SJS.
Yeah, the smile. He keeps thinking about she smiled.
Yeah. And then we get to go back and see one of the saddest little few panels of this
Oh
whole
my
thing.
God, yeah. This guy got sent to Titan.
Judge McVeigh.
Judge McVeigh got sent to Titan for having a daughter.
And he's got the full, remodeled face
Ugh.
with the respirator. He's skinny. He doesn't look like Judge McVeigh we knew, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
He had his crime was he had a family. SJS took over. He was sent to this horrible prison, and for the rest of his life, he's altered. Good judge. How old was he? He looked like an old judge.
Yeah, because usually Titan's a 20-year stretch, and he was old. But
He's not going to make it.
Nah, he's not coming home from Titan.
And it's also sad because they say, like, oh, we got a call for you, and he's hoping it's his daughter.
Yeah, is it my Allison? Is it my Allison? No, it's Dredd.
Yeah.
And he's asking for info on Penn.
Yeah.
So
That ends out Control.
chapter 1.
Takes us to the next chapter, yeah. And we find out that we don't get to see the conversation between Dredd and McVeigh. I kind of wish we would have. I feel so bad for McVeigh. I want to know more about.
Yeah, I think we're just left to know that he is on Titan.
Yeah. And he didn't have much for Dredd, apparently.
Nah. So we're on to Prague 2142.
Where Pinn's obsession with Dredd is growing. And she's reviewing now footage. She's just staking out. She's watching footage from Dredd, specifically rewinding and rewatching the footage of Dredd undermining Hershey's authority.
I no longer recognize your authority.
And that's she picks out that one statement, and she decides that's why he needs to go, because she is
That's
God.
what she's going to use to justify it in her eyes.
Yeah. So I imagine that she's just sitting there all day, watching footage, rewatching footage, brooding over the whole thing. And he's questioned the Justice Department too many times in his career to exist if Judge Penn is going to continue on.
She actually really admires him. She's really conflicted in the earlier Prague. You can see she was conflicted wanting to do how she was going to go with Dredd on this.
Do you think that's her fighting against this psychosis, or is that just the fact that she admires him, like you said, for being the uber alpha male, the alpha creature in this scenario?
Oh yeah, it's the respect. She's conflicted because she sees with him with Dredd the success of what the judges was meant to be. He is the perfect judge, but she also sees what she pertains as a weakness.
Yeah,
but it's not.
Certainly.
Her two parts of her personality that are slowly tearing themselves apart.
Right.
Because she's fighting that instinct to feel any emotion whatsoever. That's what she's trying to hold back. And Dredd is an example of someone who's allowed that to soften over the years.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But his conversation with McVeigh led him nowhere. He suspects Penn. He doesn't have any evidence. And he's just about to look into, the judges who were found murdered without their helmets, because he finds Higbee's the footage of Higbee's crime scene.
Yeah, and then Joe notices right off the bat that his helmet's missing.
Yeah, someone took his helmet. Let's do a cross reference. But as soon as he starts off on that sort of pathway that probably would have led him directly to Penn, he gets a transponder message from Gerhardt, which tells him that Gerhardt's in the city somewhere.
And Gerhardt shouldn't be in the city because he took the walk.
Yeah.
So something's up.
Yeah. And here is where Dredd fights against his own instincts as a judge, because normally a judge who went on the long walk and comes into the city, protocol would be that you call it in.
Mm-hmm.
But Dredd decides not to.
Yeah, because he's still trying to keep the investigation intact and on the down low.
Well, not only that, it says Joe owes Gerhardt. It basically, he even chastises himself and says it's weakness.
Yeah.
But what it really is Dredd
being human.
He's realizing that he needs allies.
Mm-hmm.
That this Justice Department strategy of
no man is an island.
Yeah, strength and solitude doesn't work. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't work. And the big theme throughout this whole thing is that myth of strength and solitude, where judges can't have families, they can't have allies. Blind obedience is what it's created through isolation.
Yeah. Speaking of blind,
no, absolutely.
So Joe closes in on what where Gerhardt's transponder's coming from, and he's having an inner monologue. Yeah, it's a slip of the protocol rules. The word weakness boiled like bile in his throat.
Yeah.
And then he went blind. Pitch black. Eyes no longer work.
And he was out there in that burned out carcinogenic land that we know Pin's lair, her garden of helmets. And
little footnote there, you notice the lawgiver style. It's Carlos.
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's old school.
Yep.
Yeah, old school.
Dial of
design.
death. So yeah, he goes in, and Pin, we find out that Pin has shut off his eyes because Joe's eyes at this point are cybernetic because he lost them on a mission with Anderson. And she says, "Your eyes are cybernetic. I have turned them off. They are Justice Department property, and you are no longer fit." And then Joe, in total blackness, hears clanking and whirring, and he knows, oh shit, a war droid, just high X. Oh, no, armor piercing. He just armor piercing and fires at the origin of the sound.
And he's fighting off this war droid using auditory cues the best he can, but it's a fight that he's not going to win.
No, he's blind and it's a giant robot.
Yeah. It basically he's here to be given final judgment from Pin. And it ends with Dredd being overtaken by this droid, knocks his helmet off, and
So we can't see it get knocked off. Which
Yeah.
I like that. That was a nice little touch.
and that takes us to Control 3.
Prague 243.
This is a little bit of deviation. We saw a little bit into Pin's psychosis, but now we're going basically with a full prog.
Yeah, we get the full horror show as to why Pin is the way she is now.
Yeah. Rick, you want to take this one and explain what caused Pin to be the way that she is?
Sure. All right. Dread Control Part 3. Well, as we were talking earlier about the Days of Chaos, you're seeing the flashback here taking place. She just disarmed Dredd. He's down. She's claimed his helmet.
At least she was nice to turn his eyes back on.
But she wasn't. And you could see the flashbacks taking place. And this was really the birth of the current state of Pin. And you can see the giant dump trucks. I mean, the look of terror on her face. And then you notice it goes black and white at that period. It goes black and white. And these giant dump trucks of bodies just cordwood just being stacked. Pouring.
All from the way
and you hear the
chaos.
rumble. I mean, and she can see it, hear the sound of the rumbles in her ears. And it just, and the terror. And she's trying to just plug it out. And I think this was the trauma of seeing and experiencing that was what brought her to this state that she is.
And when I was reading this one too, as it goes into that black and white, the further I got into it, the more I started to realize that it was like a combination memory and hallucination. Because a lot of the things that occur, she's there and you've got this single officer digging a trench like with a shovel.
For 60 million bodies.
Yeah, and it's her, and he starts laughing, and he starts losing it.
And the bodies are laughing.
Yeah, so she saw so much death and destruction, and especially during the cleanup, that it just stuck in her head, and she can't get it out. Very much like when we talked about War Buds, how the doctor just couldn't get the dead babies out of his mind.
And the only way she was able to purge the laughter she thought she heard from those bodies was she commits her first crime and she slits the Judge Mason's throat.
Yeah.
And I love it because the whole page is black and white except the crimson red of his blood when she slices his neck open.
I think Pin's flood of emotional vulnerability, it's this reaction formation thing where it hits her so hard.
Push as hard as you can back against it.
Yes, just completely shut it out, and it basically triggered that psychotic break. And the only thing she's been able to do to hold back the complete breakdown is to become something else. It's like she's dissociating. She's this god.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that maybe because she kept saying imperfect. She's seen Dredd imperfect, and really the word perfect is complete or incomplete. Maybe she feels that the system deep inside, she's afraid that don't want to admit that they're not perfect.
Yeah.
That the judges have faults, and then and she deals with this by Slaying the throats.
Yeah, and if you trained as like say the SJS officer training, you have to be the highest standard. And when you realize that no human can live up to that, and all you're judging everyone else and you're scrutinizing everyone else, you're scrutinizing yourself, when you finally realize that you can't live up to that, there's this crack that has to happen, and you either have to chalk it up to, well, we're all human, or no, I'm something else.
Yeah, you have to. In wrestling, they would call it living the gimmick.
Yeah.
And she is terrified of all this, and it's almost OCD, where she's trying to forcibly trying to control the situation.
Yeah.
And the only way to control the situation is to become perfect and destroy everything that she deems imperfect.
And at some point, if Judge Penn were able to operate indefinitely, I think everybody would be imperfect. It would be her ruling the death.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
she would become the new Judge Death.
Yeah. Oh, and we hope she does.
Oh, it'd be great.
So in that prog, the final thing that happens is we find Dredd buried neck deep.
Yeah, she's gone full Motel Hell with Joe.
Yeah, and she tells him that she might let him starve to death. She hasn't made up her mind.
Nobody's going to find him.
Yeah.
He's way too deep in this bombed out section of Mega City 1.
And he's going to contend with acid rain, all the radiation in the ground, these nasty ass rats.
What's the last thing Penn says to Joe before she walks away?
She tells him, "I no longer recognize your authority."
Ah, Joe.
Use his own words against him.
Yeah.
And it always, for Dredd stories, it's always Dredd's own actions coming back to haunt him. He can't get away from it. Everything that he does, no matter what he chooses, comes back to weigh on his shoulders.
Like what Rick said in the last episode, Dredd always ends up reaping what he sows.
He does. Yeah.
And you imagine when he's filming when she hit them, when you use his own words against him.
Yeah.
Oh.
How he felt.
Yeah. So he spends the next prog buried
Control
neck
Part
deep.
4. We are in Prague 2144.
And it's been days since his disappearance.
He's basically passed out. He's missing some days. He's waking up to just being caught in this acid rain, high rad count. And
hoping that Gerhardt will show up.
yeah, he still doesn't know that Gerhardt is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not showing up.
No. So it's Joe and the War Droid. Joe's neck deep, being covered in acid rain, and then we find out that what's his name? The new Chief Justice name?
Logan.
Justice Logan. He is new to the position. You know, Hershey has recently abdicated, and he's kind of stressed out because on his first day on the watch, Joe is off the streets. Nobody knows where he is, and we've talked about that before. Joe is the figurehead.
Yeah.
And if the figurehead isn't out there, people start taking liberties.
Yeah, and so they don't even really tell everyone within the department.
Just a couple.
The way that Maitland finds out, who is like head of accounts.
Yeah, the account judge with the percent signs on her shoulder pads.
Yeah, and to me, she was like an unknown character, but in the Judge Smiley
And Smallhouse, yeah.
Smallhouse, she had played a big part, and so I actually had to look this up and figure out who she was. There's an issue between she and Dredd at the beginning where she doesn't really want to speak with him, but at this point, she also has a transponder linked to Gerhardt, so she knows something's up, and she has the exact same response as Dredd. Gerhardt's here, I should report it, but he's a good judge. I need to go see what's going on with Gerhardt. So she rushes out to the same trap, where Dredd is at, and she heads out to go and see if she can help. She trusts Gerhardt.
Yeah.
And we get a couple of great panels of Dredd fighting off rats.
Yeah, Rick and I were talking about this last night where there's a nasty, ratted out rat trying to take a bite of Joe. And Joe
Takes a bite out of the
Yeah,
rat.
he does.
And this is like, Rick, you're a big Conan fan. This is
it's totally
the
Conan.
most Conan thing Dredd's ever done.
He
Right?
bit the head right off of that rat.
He's looking up at the War Droid with blood coming out of his mouth. But Maitland finds Joe neck deep. And Joe's eyes, I believe, are they still off at this point?
I think they're back on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she walks in and she sees Joe and she calls out for Gerhardt. And Joe sees her and tells her to duck. And the War Droid starts swinging on her. Yeah. War droid. Maitland gets the war droid, puts a round through its head, armor piercing. Dredd's trying to fill her in because he's neck deep, and she's like, I can't dig you out by myself.
Yeah.
And Dredd said, it's okay, Gerhardt's coming. And that's when Maitland tells him, no, he's not. He's dead behind you.
Ugh.
So yeah, all the hope in the world is
He's been there for days with this corpse behind him and no clue.
not at all.
Dredd hoping, trusting in someone is a little bit out of character for Dredd. You know,
when you're neck deep, literally neck deep.
Yeah. So she tries to make a break for it and go get help. She doesn't even have. It's like your modern day horror movies. Oh, where we're at, we don't have cell phone service.
I have to go get service.
And this is a horror movie. This is a horror movie, and Dredd is the final girl.
Mm-hmm.
So she heads out and runs directly into Judge Pinn and gets a knife in the guts.
All Dredd can do is watch. He has a corpse behind him, buried up to his neck, and he's watching Judge Pinn knife Maitland.
And now it's really starting to come down.
Can you feel it? We're getting there.
We're there. Control Part 5.
We're on Prague 2145, and what a great cover to this Prague.
Yeah.
This was actually, I think, one of the first Progs I got when I subscribed, and I couldn't read it. I was like, "Oh no, it's the end of the Pinn saga." I haven't heard the.
Oh, and the cover says "body horror," which is like a nice David Cronenberg reference.
Yeah.
So this is it, and this is why at least I know it feels kind of short, but at least they gave Judge Pinn's final. You know, the wrap up, an entire Prague, really.
Yeah.
You know,
not just like the last page.
Because we've seen it.
And God, yeah.
Kind of a bummer when that happens. So Maitland's been stabbed. She's laying on the ground, and Gerhardt is dead. Judge is buried neck deep. He's
trying to work his way out. Because you see in the first panel, he's no longer up to his neck. He's got his right shoulder pad out, and the left right pad's coming out.
The rain is working in his favor.
Yeah, but he's hallucinating now.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to remember something Smiley had said. And she said, the grave that claimed us long ago that we refused to fall into. You know that I was right about that, don't you? Death doesn't want us. It already has claimed us. And in his hallucination, his ghost image of Judge Smiley transitions quickly into Judge Death.
Yeah.
And I need to read this Judge Smiley.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds so good.
They're all the same on the inside. Smiley, Death.
I just noticed this in the way they draw Death. Mm-hmm. Instead of having the chain to his badge, he's got a noose around his neck that ties to his badge. Cool.
And it's almost like very symbolic of the fact that the badge is what's killing us. The law is what is killing. I mean, that has to be intentional there, because that's the message of all of these stories is that we are keeping us down, and the system is keeping us down. And to me, it's like Dredd's realization that as outlandish as death is, there are people in the justice system, Smiley, Pinn, who are the same on the inside as Judge Death.
Yeah.
They want the same things.
They're just mortal versions.
Yeah.
Fleshy ones.
You don't have to go to other dimensions anymore.
No, you've got horrors right here.
Yeah.
The only empathy we see Pinn show this whole story is for the war droid. That Maitland put an armor piercing around through its head.
Yeah.
While Maitland is on the ground bleeding out still.
Well, I think Pinn can interact with a piece of machinery.
They're
with no
about
problem.
the same emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Pinn manages to get it back up and running, and that's her downfall.
Yeah.
Because it's wet and the ground is sinking.
And that thing weighs a ton.
Yeah.
And she even tries to stop it from going where it's going, and it walks over near Dredd, and it sinks, which frees up Dredd's upper body. And he's able to fucking come up and grab Pinn by the ankle, and Pinn is impressed.
He's going to hold on for dear life.
Oh, God, yeah. He's like a pit bull right now.
And she's going to shut off his eyes.
What a bitch.
Shut him off.
God damn. Have you ever read another comic book where the main antagonist can just turn off the protagonist's eyes?
Pretty terrible,
click.
Yeah. So,
and he's blind and will not let go. So she's trying to get the war droid to just break his arm.
But every inch closer it gets to him, the more unstable the ground gets, and everything falls. Dredd falls, or the droid falls, opens up a poltergeist swimming pool body pit.
And Dredd, still blind, holding on with a vice grip onto Pinn's ankle, drags her down. And he says, what is it? He's got her, mustn't let go. She squirms, thrashes. He grabs for something, anything. He has to find a weapon. And how fitting.
Oh.
He grabs one of the helmets and just swings for the fences. Swing away, Meryl.
It doesn't say something like he
uses it.
intends to kill her.
it to kill.
Yeah.
And it's something that the helmet was used. Of all things, to
Right?
grab the helmet.
How fitting that Pin's undoing starts with catching a helmet in the grill.
And of course now her real end comes because while Dredd is still has his eyes turned off, she can see very clearly, and she's now surrounded by the Day of Chaos horror that drove her to the brink.
Bloodied. Her badge is no longer purely gold.
Mm-hmm.
And her eyes are working perfectly, and she sees all of it. And it's not all just bodies. It's a wall of rats.
And I think her screaming attracts the rats.
Mm-hmm.
And as she's being just hit by a wave of rats and pushed back into the dead bodies, she's screaming for help, and Dredd is climbing his way out.
Kicks her.
Blind, bloodied, weak.
She tries to climb up on Dredd, and Dredd kicks her right in the fucking face.
Yep.
Sends her back down to the bottom of the pit. And she is... This reminds me of the Fink.
Yeah.
Where it's not cursed earth rats, but they're going to town.
They're good-looking rats.
They are.
Yeah.
They are robust, and now they will be well fed.
There's one panel that I love. It's maybe even a few back, but it's Dredd neck deep, and then there's a rat under one of the helmets, kind of taking shelter from the acid rain. I don't know where it is, but it's one of my faves. So that's, and again the quick wrap up.
Yeah.
He gets out, he grabs Maitland, and
Still
he has to
blind.
get her, has
Still
to get her
blind.
back. I wonder how he managed to do that.
He's just so tired. Stay awake. Just stay awake. And that's pretty heroic.
Yeah,
Blind, starved, and bleeding. Maitland's bleeding out, but he somehow staggers his way back home.
And back in 2017, when we read, War Buds, not when we read it in 2017, but in War Buds, he kind of went from someone he had worked with for a very brief time and having very little regard for them, to now where Maitland is somebody that he's worked with on a mission before, but now he's going to carry her all the way back.
Well, it's just sense of duty, I think, at that point. She's still a judge.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think there's got to be a little something there.
Yeah,
too.
you would. I hope.
This is the Joe Dredd that was hoping, that was keeping hope alive for Gerhardt to keep his word. I mean, that's
Well, it wasn't Gerhardt's fault he didn't keep his
right.
word.
No, I'm just saying that's progress on Dredd's part.
He's evolved. He's grown as a person.
He certainly has. And so that classic Dredd ending where they're sitting in the hospital and Dredd's asking how bad it is so that he can get back out there on the streets.
Joe got some new eyes, though.
Unhackable.
Unhackable, yeah.
Eyes. Whatever the Mega City equivalent of Apple is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Otto Sump's
Otto Sump's laser eyes.
Yeah.
I like the look on his face when he said, she goes, I swear he's like giving her that look, you better be right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, would you want your eyes hacked? That's a terrible design flaw.
She's like in fear, terrified, that look on his face. This is one of the rare times you ever see Dredd without his eyes actually being
obscured by his helmet,
His
his
helmet.
head's still wrapped
His
up
helmet, yeah, it's
like
still-
a mummy.
If we Photoshop it just right, we can take those eyes from that panel and put them on some other. I feel like we could construct a Dredd face here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what I used to do with the Kiss album, where I'd trace their faces and kind of,
Yeah.
oh, that's what they look like.
Did it work?
Not really.
No.
Nah. Gene's just Gene.
So it ends with Maitland basically saying, "Look at us, we're still alive."
And that's the end of the. Yeah, that's a heart to heart moment. I guess.
But that last panel, Dredd's like sitting up, ripping out an IV.
Yeah,
He's
just-
headed back out.
Yeah, God, man, you were just buried up to your neck for days.
Yeah.
You just this Dredd ever go in for evaluation? Like just,
Oh,
hey,
God.
Joe, you want to talk about it?
What devotion.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
So this
Well,
is
it's like we said last episode. He has to keep moving. He has to keep moving.
Yep.
Dredd is the only fear Dredd has is of his feelings
yeah,
and what's going on right around inside of his brain.
it's like a shark.
Next question. Have we seen the last of Penn?
God, I hope not.
No.
I hope we see her come back as some otherworldly horror.
I want Judge Penn to come back. So Death is out doing what Death does. He's
He's
gone.
on tour.
She comes back as the replacement for Death for a while, and her and Judge Fire get shit done.
Well, you see the references. You seen the
Oh.
Judge Day in Dead World, the little references. You know,
Yeah. I
Makes you
think
wonder.
she would make a great Dark Judge.
She's great candidate.
She has what it takes. We've seen it.
And the will to get it done.
So glad this is the way they do things in 2000 AD. A character drops in, you can stay with it for 3 years and wait for their return. It doesn't have to be this.
Super slow burn.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be something where it begins and ends immediately. It's just.
Disappoints Cool Johnny Cool by the 10th issue.
Oh, you're thinking of Hush, aren't you?
Yeah. It's always my reference point because it was such a kick in the dick.
Yeah. Well, this one lived up to it. Man.
Yeah, I really liked the Penn story.
It really feels like a grindhouse horror movie.
It does, and it does. It's totally Motel Hell.
Yeah, I like that we can have that. I like that we can have our police procedural. We can have that. We can have a comedy prog, for God's sakes. And sometimes we get it all. Yeah.
He ate a cat. He ate a cat. That's my favorite fatty. If I had a favorite fatty,
Oh,
that's my
really?
fatty.
Favorite fatty?
That's my favorite fatty.
Man.
He ate a fucking cat. A dead cat. And then he tried to kill skinny people. That guy needs his own, like, fleshed out story, no pun intended.
You never know. I mean, we do see characters show up that...
I want him on a Tharg's Future sock.
What if he becomes the next, like, superhero in...
What if he comes
Mega
back as a
City?
Dark Judge?
Oh, my God.
Judge Fatty.
I would like that. Judge Bloat.
Judge Blow. There you go.
Judge Bloat.
He just eats your cat. That's all he does.
Oh, my God. Well,
No,
this was a
cat will be
good...
safe.
This was a good storyline and a good episode.
Yeah. Definitely. Easily one of the best antagonists in the last 15 for Dread.
Certainly, yeah. Well, Rick,
Yeah,
thank you
thanks
for
for-
sitting in with us.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you
hanging
for
out.
having me, Dreadheads.
I'm sure we will see you again at
Definitely.
some point here on Cursed Earth Radio. And coming up, we've got
Stuff.
Yeah,
And some things.
We definitely have our Weekly Dread coming up.
Yep. Weekly Dread every Wednesday night.
So listen in for that. And we're trying our best to get it uploaded on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, we do good track record. Usually by the time I get home, it's up. So.
The only place it's not up every Wednesday
Is
is
YouTube.
YouTube. But if you're listening there, it takes more time.
Yeah. You could pay the premium to AutoSum to fund us to get it on.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah, good run.
Rick, any final
good.
thoughts?
Looking forward to the return of Penn.
Yeah. Hopefully in 3 years we're still doing this. She'll be back.
Yeah.
She'll be back.
Maybe we'll have her on the show.
Right on. So until next time, this is Cool Johnny Cool.
Heavy Metal Kid.
This is Rick.
You're listening to Cursed Earth
Radio.
Keep listening, creeps.